Captain Kim Tae-ho walked into the huge meeting room floating in space. The walls were made of clear glass, and he could see stars everywhere around him. He wore his dark blue Earth uniform with golden buttons. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor as he moved to the center of the room. Around him sat beings from different worlds. Some looked like tall blue people with 4 arms. Others had scales like fish and breathed through gills on their necks. A few looked like giant insects with many eyes that moved in all directions. They all stared at him with anger and fear. The leader was a woman with purple skin and silver hair that floated around her head like she was underwater. Her name was Chancellor Vexari, and she spoke for all the alien worlds in their galaxy. She stood up from her chair that looked like it was made of light. "Human," she said, her voice cold and sharp. "Your people have caused too much trouble. You build cities on every planet you find. You make weapons that scare us. You ask too many questions about things that should stay hidden." Kim Tae-ho did not move. He kept his hands behind his back and looked straight at her. "We explore because that is what humans do. We build because we want to make better lives. We ask questions because we want to learn." "Your learning destroys peace," said a creature that looked like a walking tree with many mouths. "Your building takes resources from others. Your exploring brings chaos wherever you go." The Chancellor raised one of her 4 hands. "The Galactic Council has decided. Humans must follow our new rules. You will stop making new cities on planets. You will destroy half of your weapons. You will ask permission before you travel to new places. You have 30 days to agree." Kim Tae-ho smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "And if we say no? Then Earth and all human colonies will be removed from this galaxy by force," the Chancellor said. "We have ships that can destroy stars. Do not test us." Behind Kim Tae-ho, a woman stepped forward. She was Ambassador Lee So-young, and she had been trying to make peace between humans and aliens for many years. Her black hair was pulled back tight, and her eyes were tired from too many meetings like this one. "You are making a mistake," she said quietly. "Humans are not your enemy. We protect this galaxy more than you know." A snake-like creature with 6 heads laughed. All 6 mouths spoke at once. "Protect? You mean destroy. Every world you touch becomes like Earth, noisy, busy, full of problems." "We solve problems," Kim Tae-ho said. "We fix things that are broken. We fight things that want to hurt peaceful people." "Peaceful people do not need your kind of help," the Chancellor said. 30 days, human. Choose wisely." The meeting ended, and Kim Tae-ho and So-young returned to their ship. As they flew back toward Earth, So-young looked out the window at the stars. "They do not understand," she said. "They think we are the dangerous ones." "Maybe it is better that way," Kim Tae-ho replied. "Let them find out what real danger looks like." When they reached Earth, Kim Tae-ho went straight to see Admiral Park Jin-woo. The Admiral was an old man with gray hair and scars on his hands from fighting in space battles. He sat in his office looking at maps of the galaxy on his computer screen. "They want us gone," Kim Tae-ho reported. 30 days to follow their rules or face their warships." Admiral Park nodded slowly. "I expected this. They have been afraid of us for too long." He touched a button on his desk. "Send the message to all Earth colonies. Operation Exodus begins now." Across the solar system, hidden machines began to wake up. For 50 years, human engineers had been building something secret. Inside asteroid belts and behind moons, huge devices that looked like metal flowers started to open their petals. Dr. Song Hae-jin watched from her space station as the machines came alive. She was the scientist who had designed them. "Quantum drives are charging," she said into her radio. "Space fold generators are ready." On Mars, people stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky. They could feel something changing, like the air before a big storm. Children asked their parents what was happening, but no one had words to explain. "All humans must come home now," the message said on every radio and television. "Return to Earth or the colonies in our solar system. We are leaving." Ships launched from every human world, carrying millions of people back to their home system. The alien governments watched and thought the humans were getting ready to surrender. But they were wrong. On the 30th day, Chancellor Vexari sat in her office waiting for Earth's answer. She expected the humans to agree to follow the new rules like scared children. Instead, space itself began to bend and twist around Earth's solar system. The quantum drives that humans had built in secret created a bubble around their sun and all their planets. Light started to bend in ways that hurt alien eyes to look at. Admiral Park stood on Earth's moon, watching his home world prepare for something that had never been done before. Are we ready? He asked Dr. Song. As ready as we can be for moving 9 planets and a star to a new part of the universe, she replied. The machines fired all at once. Space folded like paper, and Earth's entire solar system disappeared from the galaxy in a flash of white light that could be seen from 1,000 light-years away. The aliens celebrated. They thought they had won and that the troublesome humans were destroyed. They were very, very wrong. 3 months passed since Earth vanished from the galaxy. The alien world celebrated with festivals and parades. Chancellor Vexari gave speeches about how peaceful everything would become now that humans were gone. The Galactic Council made new laws to keep harmony between all the remaining species. But something was wrong. Communications Officer Yoon Daeun sat alone in her chair on a space station floating in the dark between galaxies. Earth and all its planets hung nearby like glowing jewels in the empty black space. She wore headphones and listened to radio signals that traveled across impossible distances. Her face grew pale as she heard the messages coming from their old galaxy. She pressed a button and spoke into her microphone. Admiral Park, you need to hear this. Admiral Park Jinwoo walked to her station. His uniform was different now, darker, with new patches that seemed to absorb light. What is it, Daeun? She played the recordings. Voices full of fear spoke in different alien languages, but the computer translated them into Korean. Help us, the shadow came from nowhere, our people are gone. The lights went out and never came back on. The first report came from Outpost Kepler 7, a small mining station on the edge of the galaxy. The workers there had been digging for crystals when their machines stopped working. The lights in their buildings went out one by one. When rescue ships arrived 3 days later, they found empty halls and cold rooms. No bodies. No signs of fighting. Just silence. They vanished like smoke, the rescue captain reported. Food still warm on tables. Bed still made. But no people anywhere. More reports came every day. Trading ships disappeared between star systems. Entire colonies went quiet. The missing places formed a pattern that moved slowly toward the center of the galaxy, like a dark circle growing bigger and bigger. Captain Choi Minute-ho stood on the bridge of his ship, looking at maps covered in red dots. Each dot was a place where people had vanished. He had been a space explorer for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. Sir, said his young officer, Han Yujin. The aliens are starting to panic. They are calling emergency meetings. Choi Minute-ho nodded. Do they know what is happening to them? No, sir. They think it might be some kind of new weapon. They are blaming each other. But Dr. Song Haijin knew better. She worked in a laboratory on Earth's moon, studying old human stories and ancient books. She had spent months reading fairy tales about monsters in the dark, legends about things that ate light, and stories that parents told children to make them stay in bed at night. Admiral, she called Park on her video phone. I think I know what those creatures are. Park appeared on her screen. Behind him, she could see Earth hanging in space like a blue marble. Tell me. In human history, we have always told stories about things that live in the dark. Monsters under beds. Shadows that move when no one is looking. Creatures that steal people in the night. She held up an old book with pictures of scary beings. I think those stories were memories. Memories of what? Of these things. The ones that are attacking the galaxy now. Humans have been fighting them for thousands of years without knowing it. She showed him charts and graphs. Every time we built a city on a planet near the galaxy's edge, we were pushing them back. Every time we sent ships to explore dark space, we were keeping them away from other worlds. Park understood immediately. We were a wall. Yes. And now the wall is gone. The attacks grew worse. Entire star systems went dark, their suns somehow drained of light and heat. The creatures that did this never showed themselves clearly. Survivors described them as living shadows that moved through space without ships. They seemed to eat energy itself, first the power from machines, then heat from stars, then life from planets. Lieutenant Nam Ji-hyun monitored alien communications from her post on Mars. She listened to their leaders argue and blame each other for the disasters. They still do not understand, she reported to Admiral Park. They think this is a natural disaster or a secret weapon from another alien race. Good, Park said. Let them figure it out the hard way. The Galactic Council met in emergency sessions every day. Chancellor Vexari looked older now, her silver hair turning gray with worry. The other alien leaders shouted at each other in languages that sounded like angry music. We must find what is causing this, said the tree creature with many mouths. Our scientists have no explanations. Perhaps, said a quiet voice from the back, "we made a mistake." Everyone turned to look. It was Ambassador Kethran, who had always spoken against removing humans from the galaxy. His skin was pale blue, and his eyes were large and sad. "What mistake?" the Chancellor demanded. "The humans warned us. They said they protected the galaxy more than we knew. We did not listen." "Humans were the problem," shouted the snake-like creature. "They caused chaos everywhere." "Did they?" Kethran asked. "Or did they fight chaos so we never had to see it?" But it was too late for such questions. The shadow continued to spread, moving toward the bright center of the galaxy where the most important worlds lived. And somewhere in the dark between galaxies, humanity watched and waited, learning new ways to fight monsters that had no names. The shadow creatures had eaten half the galaxy's outer worlds when the aliens finally decided to look for Earth. Chancellor Vexari stood in the council chamber, her purple skin now pale with fear. Around her, the surviving alien leaders whispered in worried voices. "We must find the humans," she announced. "They may know how to stop this darkness." Ambassador Kethran, the blue-skinned alien who had warned them before, stepped forward. "I will lead the search mission. But I fear we may not like what we find." Meanwhile, Dr. Song Haijin worked day and night in her new laboratory. It was built inside a hollow asteroid that floated near Earth. The walls were covered with pictures of monsters from human stories, vampires, demons, shadow people, and things with no names that lived in nightmares. "Look at this," she said to her assistant, Lieutenant Park So-Minute. She pointed to an old painting from medieval times. It showed knights fighting dark creatures that seemed to be made of living smoke. "This painting is 1,000 years old. But see these creatures? They look exactly like what the aliens describe." So-Minute studied the picture. "You think humans have been fighting these things for that long?" "Longer," Dr. Song replied. She opened another book, this one with cave drawings. "These pictures are 10,000 years old. Every human culture has stories about shadow monsters. We thought they were just imagination, but what if they were real? What if our ancestors really did fight these creatures?" On the other side of Earth's solar system, Captain Oh Sung-ho watched his new ship being built. It did not look like the bright white ships that humans used to make. This one was black as midnight, and its hull seemed to drink light instead of reflecting it. "How does it work?" asked his engineer, Kim Jun-ho. "Dr. Song figured it out," Sung-ho explained. "The shadow creatures fear something deeper than darkness. They fear the void, empty space that can think and dream. So we made ships that can swim in that emptiness." The ship's engines did not burn fuel like normal engines. Instead, they used something Dr. Song called crystallized fear, energy taken from human nightmares and turned into power. When the engine started, space around the ship became so dark that stars disappeared. "It feels wrong to look at," Jun-ho whispered. "Like my eyes want to look away." "That is the point," Sung-ho said. "If it scares us, imagine what it does to creatures made of shadow." Back in the galaxy, the alien search teams finally found traces of where Earth had gone. Commander Zelt HYSS, a tall alien with silver skin and 6 arms, led the expedition. His ships followed quantum trails through space like bloodhounds following a scent. "The signature is strong here," reported his science officer. "The humans moved their entire star system to coordinates beyond our galaxy's edge." Zelt HYSS felt cold fear in his chest. Beyond the edge? Into the void between galaxies? Nothing can live there. "Apparently humans can," the science officer replied. "When they finally found Earth's new location, what they saw made them afraid in new ways. Earth's solar system hung in the black emptiness between star clusters, but it was not alone. Around it floated hundreds of strange objects, ships that looked like they were carved from solid night, space stations that bent light around them, and weapons that made reality itself seem fragile." "By the ancient stars," whispered Zelt HYSS. "What have they become?" A single human ship approached their fleet. It was Captain Oh Sung-ho's vessel, and when it moved, stars seemed to go out behind it. Zelt HYSS tried to look directly at the ship, but his eyes kept sliding away as if his brain refused to see it properly. "Alien vessels," came a voice over the radio. The voice sounded human, but there was something different about it, colder, deeper, like it came from the bottom of an ocean. "You are in human space. State your business." We come seeking help," Zelt HYSS stammered. "Our worlds are being destroyed by shadow creatures. We need to speak with your leaders." There was a long silence. "Then, you wanted us gone. You got your wish. Your monsters are your problem now." "Please," Zelt HYSS begged. Billions of innocent people are dying. Our children, our families, they did nothing wrong. Another pause. Follow me. Do not deviate from the course I show you, or the void will take you. Sung Ho's ship led them through a maze of impossible geometry. Space seemed to fold and twist around them. Normal physics stopped working. HFY's instruments showed readings that made no sense: negative temperatures, time moving backwards, gravity pointing in directions that did not exist. How do they navigate this? His pilot asked, fear making his voice shake. They learned to think like the void, HFY realized. They became something that can survive in emptiness. Finally, they reached Earth. But it was not the blue and green world they remembered from old records. This Earth was surrounded by rings of dark metal, and its moon had been carved into the shape of a fortress. Ships moved between the planets like schools of mechanical fish, each one darker than the space around it. Admiral Park Jin-woo met them in a conference room that seemed to be made of crystallized starlight. But when HFY looked at him, he saw that the human had changed. Park's eyes were deeper now, like they had looked into places that should not be seen. His smile was the smile of someone who had learned to make friends with nightmares. Welcome to humanity's new home, Park said. We call it the Dark Harbor. It is where we learn to hunt the things that hunt you. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaos. Alien leaders from hundreds of worlds shouted at each other in fear and anger. Their beautiful chamber, once filled with peaceful discussions, now echoed with desperate voices. Outside the windows, they could see the darkness creeping closer to the galaxy's heart. Chancellor Vexari stood at the center, her purple skin now gray with exhaustion. She had not slept in days. Silence, she commanded, but her voice cracked with fear. A new alarm began to sound. The shadow creatures had consumed 3 more star systems overnight. At this rate, they would reach the capital worlds within a month. Suddenly, space outside the chamber began to bend. The aliens pressed their faces against the windows, watching in terror as reality twisted like fabric being wrung out. Then, from the darkness between stars, a single human ship appeared. It was not like the bright ships they remembered humans using. This vessel was black as the void itself, and looking at it made their eyes water and their minds feel strange. It moved without seeming to move, appearing closer each time they blinked. Incoming transmission, announced the chamber's computer in a voice that sounded afraid. The screen at the front of the room flickered to life. Captain Bae Sujin appeared, but she looked different from the humans they remembered. Her skin was pale as moonlight, and her dark eyes seemed to hold depths that went on forever. Behind her, the bridge of her ship was lit by lights that gave off no warmth. Greetings, Galactic Council, she said. Her voice was soft, but it carried clearly through the chamber. I bring a message from Earth. Chancellor Vexari stepped forward, trying to look brave. We are grateful you have come. We need your help against these shadow creatures. Sujin smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Shadow creatures? Is that what you call them? How innocent you sound. You know what they are? Asked Ambassador Kethran, the blue-skinned alien who had always defended humans. We have known them for 10,000 years, Sujin replied. In our old language, we called them the Devourers. They are older than your civilizations, older than most stars. They wait in the spaces between galaxies, hungry for light and life. The alien leaders whispered to each other in fear. One of them, a creature that looked like a walking crystal, spoke up. If you know about them, why did you not warn us? Sujin's laugh was like ice cracking. Warn you? We did more than warn you. We fought them. Every human colony you called aggressive expansion was really a fortress. Every weapon you said was too dangerous was made to kill Devourers. Every question we asked about dark space was us trying to find their hiding places. The truth hit the aliens like a cold wind. They had not just expelled their protectors, they had removed the very thing keeping ancient nightmares at bay. We were your shield, Sujin continued. And you threw us away because you were afraid of us. Now you are afraid of the right things. Chancellor Vexari fell to her knees. Please. We were wrong. Help us. Our worlds are dying. Your worlds, Sujin repeated. Not our worlds. You made that very clear. Behind Sujin, other figures moved in the shadows of her ship's bridge. The aliens could barely see them, but what they glimpsed made their blood run cold. These humans did not look entirely human anymore. They had spent months in the void between galaxies, learning to fight creatures made of living darkness. The experience had changed them. What do you want? Vexari asked desperately. What we always wanted. The right to exist as we choose. The right to explore and build and ask questions. The right to protect the galaxy in the way we know how. Yes, Vexari said quickly. Anything. Full citizenship. Territory. Resources. Just save us. Not citizenship, Sujin corrected. Sovereignty. We do not want to be part of your council. We want to be recognized as equals. And we want an admission. What kind of admission? Sujin leaned forward, and her eyes seemed to glow in the strange light of her ship. Admit that you were wrong. Admit that humans were never the monsters in this galaxy. Admit that we were the ones keeping the real monsters away. The council chamber fell silent except for the sound of alien hearts beating fast with fear. Outside, space lit up with new arrivals. More human ships appeared, each one darker and stranger than the last. These vessels looked like they had been built in the spaces between nightmares. Admiral Park Jin-woo's face appeared on another screen. He looked older now, with silver in his black hair and lines around his eyes that spoke of looking into terrible places. The Devourer fleet has consumed the Antares sector. They will reach your core worlds in 18 days. 18 days, gasped the tree creature with many mouths. Unless we stop them, Park said simply. But we will only fight if the vote is unanimous. All of you must agree to our terms. The aliens looked at each other with desperate eyes. Some wanted to argue, to negotiate, to find another way. But outside the windows, they could see the darkness growing closer, swallowing stars like a mouth-eating light. All in favor, Vexari called out. Every hand, claw, tentacle, and appendage in the chamber rose into the air. Sujin nodded once. Then we have an agreement. Prepare yourselves. When we fight the Devourers, the battle will be unlike anything your galaxy has ever seen. We learned their secrets in the dark between stars. Now it is time to use that knowledge. Her ship vanished back into the void, leaving the aliens alone with their fear and their hope. The final battle began at dawn on the galaxy's oldest world. Planet Centralis had been the first to develop space travel, the first to make contact with other species, and the first to form the Galactic Council. Now it would be the last world standing between the Devourers and the heart of civilization. Admiral Park Jin-woo stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching through windows that showed impossible views. His ship existed partly in normal space and partly in the void where nightmares lived. Around him, his crew worked at stations that glowed with dark light, energy stolen from the spaces between stars. Enemy fleet detected, reported Lieutenant Nam Ji-hyun. Her voice was calm, but her hands shook slightly. Through months of living in the void, all the humans had learned to stay brave even when facing things that should not exist. The Devourer fleet was not made of ships. Instead, it was a moving wall of living shadow that stretched across light years of space. Within the darkness, shapes moved like whales swimming through black water. Some were the size of moons, others bigger than planets. They had no faces, but somehow they radiated hunger older than galaxies. All human vessels, this is Admiral Park, he spoke into his communicator. Remember what we learned in the dark. These creatures fear only one thing, the void that dreams. We have become that void. Show them what nightmares look like when they learn to fight back. Captain Oh Sung-ho commanded the first attack wave. His ship, the Dream Eater, moved through space like a shark through water. Its hull was made of crystallized human fears, terror and dread turned solid and weaponized. When enemy shadows touched it, they recoiled as if burned. Firing nightmare torpedoes, Sung-ho announced. The weapons that launched from his ship were not made of metal or energy. They were pieces of human imagination made real, childhood monsters and adult terrors given form and purpose. When they hit the Devourers, the ancient creatures screamed in frequencies that made reality tremble. On planet Centralis, the alien population watched through telescopes and video screens. Chancellor Vexari stood in the council chamber with tears running down her purple cheeks. What have we done? She whispered. What have the humans become? Ambassador Kethran placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. They became what they needed to become to save us. The question is, what will we become after this? In space, the battle grew more intense. The Devourers tried to surround the human fleet, but the dark ships moved in ways that normal physics could not explain. Captain Bae Sujin's vessel, Void Walker, disappeared and reappeared behind enemy lines. Her weapons fired beams of concentrated emptiness, nothingness so pure that it erased whatever it touched. They are running, reported Dr. Song Haijin from her science station. She had studied these creatures for months, learning their weaknesses from human folklore and ancient fears. The big ones at the back are trying to retreat. But Admiral Park was not going to let them escape. All ships, formation Banshee. We end this now. The human fleet arranged itself in a pattern that hurt to look at, geometric shapes that existed in too many dimensions at once. Together, they began to sing. Not with voices, but with the humming of their impossible engines. The sound they made was the lullaby that parents sang to chase away monsters, turned into a weapon of war. The Devourers, creatures older than stars, began to dissolve. They had fed on light and life for millions of years, but they had never faced beings who could make darkness itself afraid. One by one, they faded away like smoke and wind, retreating to the empty spaces between galaxies where they belonged. The battle lasted 7 hours. When it ended, the galaxy was safe, but it was also forever changed. Lieutenant Colonel Nam Ji-hyun established the first monitoring station at the galaxy's edge. It was a fortress made of living shadow, crewed by humans who had learned to see in absolute darkness. "We will watch," she reported to Admiral Park. "If they try to come back, we will be ready." But the Devourers would not return. They had learned, as all nightmares eventually do, that there are worse things than monsters. There are the people who learn to become monsters in order to protect what they love. On Centralis, the Galactic Council met for the first time since the battle. The chamber looked the same, but everything felt different. Chancellor Vexari stood at the podium, her voice strong but humble. "Today we acknowledge our mistake," she announced. "Humans were never our enemy. They were our guardians, standing between us and horrors we could not imagine. We exiled them out of fear and ignorance." Captain Lee Minuteseo represented Earth at the meeting. She wore the new human uniform, black fabric that seemed to absorb light, with patches that showed stars going dark. "We accept the galaxy's apology," she said. "But things cannot go back to the way they were. We have seen what lives in the dark between stars. We have become something new." The Council voted to give humanity complete independence and control over the galaxy's outer regions. Humans would build their watching posts and dark fortresses wherever they chose. They would ask no permission and follow no laws except their own. "You wanted us gone," Lee Minuteseo said as the meeting ended. "Now we are something different. We are the guardians at the threshold, the watchers in the void. We stand between you and the dark, not because you deserve it, but because it is what we choose to do." The galaxy learned to sleep peacefully again, knowing that in the spaces between stars, humanity kept watch with eyes that had learned to see nightmares and make them afraid.